Conrad had 2 concert tickets tucked in his suit pocket, and I assumed it was a surprise he'd planned for me. I eagerly counted down to the concert day, only to discover he'd taken the tickets with him on a business trip. Through some connections, I managed to snag the tickets at an exorbitant price, only to witness him passionately kissing another girl during the performance. The 2 of them, projected on the big screen, were locked in a tearful embrace. After the concert, I scrolled through the girl's Instagram. Kissing the love of my life at my favorite artist's concert is the best birthday gift I've ever received. The comments were flooded with well wishes, but I was the one who got hit by his car as it suddenly accelerated. When I woke up, Conrad was sitting by my hospital bed, scrolling through his phone, wearing a smile I'd never seen before, so tender. I asked him who she was, but he just glanced up and said, "I'm your boss. Just focus on recovering, all right?" With that, he left in a hurry. I turned away and called home. "Uncle Ambrose, about that arranged marriage you mentioned earlier, I've decided to go through with it." There was a pause on the other end, followed by a relieved sigh. "Madeline, I'm so glad you've come to your senses. A boyfriend who kept you in the shadows for 5 years deserves to stay there forever. When can you come back?" I just sent a message, and they're already pushing to set a wedding date. I had been in love with Conrad for 5 years, but the one who was truly kept in the shadows was me. He was so eager to distance himself from me that I doubted he'd make my resignation difficult. The sooner, the better. I can wrap up the resignation process quickly. Conrad returned to the room, looking for his car keys. Resignation? Is someone in the company leaving? The final step of the resignation process required his approval, so I didn't try to hide it. But he was too engrossed in his phone to notice my nod. He picked up the car keys and casually remarked, "The doctor said you hit your head and might lose your memory. I thought you really had forgotten." I was the one driving. It was too dark, and you were looking down at your phone. I was stunned. So that was why he didn't explain anything in the empty hospital room and pretended we were barely acquaintances. 10 minutes ago, when he said he was just my boss, his expression was cold and distant, with just the right amount of professional concern. But there was no guilt. Before I was hit, I had seen the car coming straight at me, with Conrad in the passenger seat. The girl he had kissed was the one driving. He didn't even give me a chance to confront him, leaving in a hurry with the excuse that the company was busy. I thought he didn't know how to face me because he had injured me. How laughable. He didn't even care about me. I just woke up, my mind still a bit foggy. "Didn't recognize you, boss." He brushed me off with a casual remark, so I played along, pretending everything was fine. He turned his head, studying my cold expression with a hint of confusion. The girl who used to demand kisses and hugs at the slightest injury, why was she acting so distant today? He glanced around, making sure no one was nearby, then softened his voice to comfort me. "Madeline, hospitals are full of gossips. It wouldn't be good if someone saw us. Just focus on getting better. When you're discharged, I'll make it up to you," I replied with a polite smile. "Yes, thank you, boss." In private, I'd often playfully call him boss, too. But today, the word felt stiff and distant, stinging Conrad enough to make him frown. He was about to say something when the doctor came by for rounds, and he quickly reverted to his usual detached demeanor. Before leaving, he reminded me, "Rest well. Don't think you can use your special status to get privileges at my company. Everyone's treated equally. Rules must be followed." The doctor, noticing my forced smile, teased me. "Your boss is gone now. No need to keep up the act. Though, I'll admit, he's tough on the outside, but soft on the inside. He even covered your medical bills." My forced smile turned into a bitter one. Conrad was too good at this. So good that, aside from a few of his friends, no one knew we'd been in a relationship, one that had lasted 5 years. I'd asked him countless times when we'd go public, and he'd always brushed me off with, "The timing isn't right." So much so that I didn't even know what we were anymore. Today, he gave me the answer. under the assumption that I'd lost my memory. His immediate response, "I'm your boss," was his true feelings. The accident hadn't been serious. After 3 days of observation, the doctor discharged me. Since the insurance covered most of it, the remaining balance was refunded to Conrad's account. 3 days had passed without a word from him, but he finally called. "You're discharged already? You should have told me earlier." "I'm meeting a client today. I can't pick you up." "Yeah." I swallowed the questions that almost spilled out. His location showed he was at a hotel. What he was busy with didn't need explaining. A woman's voice chimed in. "Come help me dry my hair." He hung up immediately. Soon after, I received 2 transfers from him, one for $1,314, the other for $520. The numbers were symbolic ones I'd always wanted to post on Instagram over the past 5 years, but he'd always refused. I'd wanted to show off our love, just like other girls did. Now that I'd decided to let go, he finally gave me what I'd wanted, though I wasn't sure why. Looking at his newly updated WhatsApp profile picture, I clicked to return the transfer. His profile picture was clearly a couple's avatar, but not with me. Conrad sent me a few question marks, but I didn't reply. When I got home, the house was exactly as I had left it. It seemed that since the concert that night, he hadn't been back. I pushed my thoughts aside and started packing my things. In just half a day, the home I had carefully decorated for 5 years felt much emptier. Most of the items were couple-themed things I had bought. But Conrad, who was used to keeping things under wraps, never liked wearing or using anything that would show he was in a relationship. I used to joke that he was as cautious as a spy. Now I realized it was because, in his heart, I was never his significant other. Halfway through packing, Conrad actually came home. "Madeline, what's going on? I tried calling and texting you to go out to eat, but you didn't respond." Catching a whiff of perfume that wasn't mine on him, I quickly raised my hand to stop him from coming closer. I glanced at the suspicious hickey on his neck and said calmly, "I've been busy. Didn't check my phone." He scanned the room, clearly annoyed. "Don't tell me you've been busy tearing the place apart. You just got out of the hospital. Shouldn't you be resting?" He pointed at the boxes of brand new items I hadn't thrown out yet. "Are these all things you don't want?" I bent down to pick up the boxes, and he took them from me. "All right, I'll throw them out. Stop wasting money on random stuff, okay? Go change, and let's grab some food." Since I was leaving, it was time to have it out. From the balcony, I watched as he tossed those couple items into the trash without a second thought. Just like our 5-year relationship, they were now worthless. When we got to the restaurant, he ordered several dishes we used to enjoy together, but he also ordered one I hated, Brussels sprouts with bacon. My appetite vanished instantly, and I no longer felt the need to force myself. "Waiter, please take this dish away. We'll still pay for it." Conrad, however, pulled the plate closer to him. "So you didn't like that I wasn't there when you were in the hospital? Why are you being so dramatic now? If you'd been paying attention, you wouldn't have gotten hit in the first place." I had seen how much he cared for me before, so it was obvious now that he didn't love me anymore. The man who once carried me to the hospital in the middle of the night when I had a high fever was nowhere to be seen when I was hit and hospitalized. The man who knew I hated Brussels sprouts and never bought me anything bitter suddenly ordered it again, just like he did when we first met 5 years ago. I forced a faint smile and said calmly, "I hate Brussels sprouts. The smell makes me uncomfortable." "Then just don't eat it." Problem solved. His impatience was clear, but I kept my smile. "We should break." Before I could finish, a girl appeared at our table. "Conrad, after all these years, you still remember I love Brussels sprouts." I calmly looked up at the woman with her flawless makeup, gazing down at me with disdain. She squeezed Conrad closer and sat down right next to him, directly across from me. "Let me introduce myself. I'm Olive Nichols, Conrad's girlfriend." I didn't respond. She deliberately leaned into Conrad's arm. Conrad, aren't you going to introduce her? Who is she? Conrad's expression wasn't great. It seemed Olive's sudden appearance had caught him off guard. His evasive eyes made me find it amusing. I'm an employee at Mr. Boyd's company. Since there were no seats left in the restaurant, we decided to share a table. Conrad suddenly looked at me, a flash of shock in his eyes. Then he let out a huge sigh of relief. Ah, yes, this is Madeline Marshall, an employee at my company. Hearing this, Olive smiled sweetly. Miss Marshall must be exceptionally talented. This is the first time I've seen Conrad sharing a table with a woman other than me. With that, she placed her phone on the table, casually pushing it forward. The provocation was thick in the air. I caught a glimpse of her Instagram profile picture. It was indeed a matching couple's photo with Conrad. Even their outfits today were in the same color scheme. Clearly high-end matching couple attire. Now, sitting together under the soft lighting, they looked like the perfect pair, a match made in heaven. I put down my fork and got up to leave. Olive grabbed my hand, her long nails digging into my flesh, where Conrad couldn't see. Miss Marshall, you're leaving as soon as I arrived. Did I say something wrong? I'll apologize. All right? I had no patience for her games. I forcefully pulled my hand away. As I checked the faint red marks on my wrist from her nails, her hand inexplicably slapped a little boy who was playing nearby. The boy cried out in pain, tears streaming down his face. Olive's eyes immediately welled up with panic as she hurriedly apologized to the boy. Conrad quickly transferred money to the boy's parents to apologize. But then, the boy suddenly pointed at me and said, "It was her! She's the one who made the lady's hand hit me. I want her to apologize." Olive immediately put on a hurt expression. Miss Marshall, I don't know what I did to upset you, but if you have a problem with me, take it out on me. Don't hurt an innocent child. Instantly, the people around us started pointing and whispering. Conrad glared at me and said coldly, "What are you standing there for? Apologize already. Aren't you embarrassed?" With someone backing him up, the little boy suddenly ran over and bit my hand, refusing to let go. The more Olive Nichols tried to comfort the boy, the tighter he clamped down. I couldn't bring myself to retaliate against a child, so I apologized to him. But Conrad Boyd wasn't satisfied. He didn't notice that my hand was bleeding and stubbornly grabbed me as I tried to leave. Madeline, apologize to Olive. Olive looked conflicted and tried to intervene. Conrad, let it go. I'm fine. But the boy might have been hurt, and he's in pain. He glanced at Olive's reddened hand and immediately felt a pang of guilt. Then, without hesitation, he pressed my hand into the bowl of hot stew that had just been served. The stew wasn't boiling, but at over 140 degrees Fahrenheit, the salty liquid seeped into the bite wound, burning and stinging so intensely that my whole body trembled. Madeline, how could you be so cruel? This is your punishment. In your eyes, is that really who I am? Even though I already knew the answer, I couldn't help but ask. The commotion drew the attention of the onlookers, who began to whisper. Which one is actually his girlfriend? Are you blind? It's obvious. The one he's protecting is the real girlfriend. Can't you see they're wearing matching outfits? Their gazes fell on me, filled with pity. Hey, man, that's enough. If you keep going, the poor girl's hand is going to be cooked. My face pale. I looked at Conrad and laughed bitterly instead of getting angry. For once, he seemed flustered under my gaze. Finally, he let go of my hand and left with Olive, striding away without a second glance. When I got home, he ordered me a tube of burn cream from Amazon. Madeline, please don't be so sensitive and pick on Olive. We'll be seeing each other often, and I hope you two can get along. Was he really trying to pacify me with a tube of burn cream while enjoying the best of both worlds? I applied the cream without responding, and he didn't come home that night. The next day at work, my colleagues looked at me with strange expressions. When I sat down at my desk, Kaylee Sanders, who was close to me, leaned in and whispered, "Madeline, everyone's saying you tried to seduce Conrad and got caught by his girlfriend. Now the whole company's talking about it." She handed me her phone. I realized someone had been at the scene yesterday, and they had quickly created a group chat overnight, discussing my so-called failed attempt to climb the social ladder. Before I could explain, Conrad walked in with Olive in tow. "Everyone, let me introduce our new department manager, Olive Nichols." So this was what Conrad meant by seeing each other. Often he had parachuted Olive in to be my boss. Instantly, all eyes turned to me. After the previous department manager resigned, I had been handling the department's affairs. Everyone had assumed I was a shoo-in for the position. Conrad pulled Olive into the company group chat in front of everyone. Both of them posted a message in the chat. Anyone with eyes could see their profile pictures were a matching set. All morning, the entire company was busy gossiping. I was planning to resign anyway, so I didn't care that the position that should have been mine was taken. After emailing my resignation letter to HR, I took a rare moment to relax and made myself a cup of honey lemon tea in the break room. Before I could take more than a few sips, Olive walked in. She brewed herself a cup of coffee and sat down next to me, exuding an air of victory. "Madeline, I know you've been Conrad's secret lover for 5 years, but I'm his real girlfriend now. Since I'm back, it's time for you, the other woman, to step aside. If you keep your mouth shut like you used to, I won't cause you any trouble." Then she played a voice message. It was the little boy from yesterday, bragging to her. "Auntie Olive, did I do a good job? Don't forget the Transformers you promised me." So that's why it had all been so convenient. Seeing the malicious glint in her eyes, my instincts told me to leave immediately. She grabbed the coffee cup from my hand and dumped it over her own head, then hurled the cup at my feet, shattering it into pieces. The long, cold latte dripped down her face, soaking her clothes and tangling her hair, making her look pitiful. This woman was truly ruthless in her efforts to get back at me. She blocked my path, screeching at the top of her lungs, "Madeline, what are you doing? Why are you treating me like this?" As her screams echoed, our colleagues rushed over. Not content with the coffee, she also splashed tea on her chest and rubbed her neck until it turned red, repeating her earlier act. I couldn't take it any more and slapped her hard across the face. Conrad, hearing the commotion, rushed over and saw me, composed and unharmed, slapping Olive, who looked utterly disheveled. Without a second thought, he slapped me back, shouting, "Madeline, if you don't want this job anymore, get out." Still fuming, he shoved me aside and swept Olive off her feet, carrying her into his office like a princess. I stumbled backward, my lower back hitting the edge of a desk, the pain bringing tears to my eyes. The HR manager, who had been hesitating over my resignation, immediately signed off on it without a second thought. Conrad, busy comforting Olive, didn't even glance at the paperwork before approving my departure. The finance department, eager to curry favor with the future Mrs. Boyd, promptly settled my final paycheck. I still had a lot of client files to hand over, so I packed them up to send to Conrad. But when I tried, I found that my company email had already been deleted. Only Conrad had the authority to delete accounts of departing employees. I tried sending him a breakup text, only to discover he had blocked my number and WhatsApp. I left the office, went home, and erased every trace of myself before heading straight to the airport. As the plane taxied down the runway, I forced myself to close my eyes and rest. But my mind kept replaying the moment I opened Conrad's safe while clearing out my things. After we had officially become a couple, I had handmade a pair of matching rings. Conrad refused to wear his, so he hid them in the safe, setting a password I didn't know. He said they would be our wedding rings when we got married. I had once been desperate to open that safe, trying every possible combination, but nothing worked. Until I tried the date of the concert Olive's birthday. The safe clicked open. Inside, there were no rings to reclaim, only a stack of carefully preserved photos and a diary. The photos were of Conrad and Olive at 18, smiling at each other. Even though the pictures had yellowed with age, the affection between them was unmistakable. The diary was filled with the details of their passionate relationship. After Olive disappeared without a word, the entries turned into endless longing. No wonder they had rekindled their relationship so intensely when they reunited. As for the rings I had made, they were probably long gone, just like all the other couple items. If I had known he had already thrown them away, I wouldn't have opened the safe to snoop on his sweet memories with Olive. I wouldn't have had to see how he had been pining for his first love while he was with me. They were truly a perfect match. Olive had left without a word back then, and Conrad had never bothered to break up with me before getting back together with her. I had given him 5 years of my whole heart, only to realize I had been nothing more than a distraction for him. Drowsiness washed over me, and in my hazy state, I struggled to tell whether the Conrad Boyd, who once doted on me, was real or just a figment of my imagination. He didn't love me, yet he took care of all the household chores, afraid I'd lift a finger. He didn't love me, yet he broke into a cold sweat when my uncle called to urge me to return to New York, swallowing his pride to beg me not to leave him. He didn't love me, yet he planned our future with me, envisioning 2 children, a cat, and a dog, even coming up with names for our hypothetical kids. But if he loved me, how could he have turned to Olive Nichols without even giving me the courtesy of a proper breakup? If he loved me, how could he have failed to give me the most basic trust, allowing my colleagues to label me as a homewrecker, trying to climb the social ladder? Dwelling on these thoughts was pointless now. From the moment I agreed to the arranged marriage my uncle had set up, Conrad and I were no longer part of the same world. When the plane landed, my uncle and my mother were already waiting for me. "Madeline, I've been waiting for you to come home. What's so great about the South? The rainy season is endless, and the humidity is unbearable. You've always had a delicate constitution, yet you insisted on staying there for so many years. Sister, you shouldn't have let Madeline go to college in the South. If it weren't for my friend looking out for her, she would have suffered so much more." Mentioning Conrad, my uncle quickly asked, "Did he say anything when you resigned to come back and get married? He's praised you to me several times, saying you're a rare talent." "That was just polite talk because of you, Uncle. Don't take it so seriously." But my uncle disagreed. "I know him better than you do. He's not the type to praise people easily. He's very picky. I wonder who could ever catch his eye now. Back in the day, it seemed everyone knew Olive Nichols was Conrad's unforgettable first love. Only I was the fool who had a 5-year secret relationship with him, ending up utterly broken. Conrad had been my uncle's business partner, and the 2 of them were as close as brothers. That was one of the reasons he didn't want to make our relationship public. His pride made him feel that acknowledging me as his niece's husband would mean he was beneath my uncle. After all, he was the same age as my uncle, only 7 years older than me. Add to that the fact that I worked at his company, and he had a strict policy against office romances. For 5 years, he kept me well hidden. Even though we saw each other every day at work, no one ever suspected a thing. That's why, when Olive appeared, I was labeled as the shameless homewrecker. I didn't want to continue talking about Conrad, so I deliberately turned to my mother and started acting spoiled. Once we got home, the familiar and comforting meal washed away the fatigue of the past few days. My uncle went on and on about the arranged marriage candidate he had picked for me, praising him as if he were a gift from heaven. He had spoken the same way about Conrad back then, which was why I had always seen Conrad through rose-tinted glasses. I had even gone to college in the South just to be closer to him. At that time, Olive had already gone abroad. Conrad was completely absorbed in his career, while I was focused on deliberately seeking his help. After a few interactions, we naturally got together. The fragmented memories made me pause for a moment, and I blurted out my doubts. "Uncle Ambrose, your taste isn't exactly great." "Madeline, you've worked under Conrad for so long. He's not a bad guy, right?" "Evander is 10 times better than Conrad." "I can guarantee you, Evander is a rare gem you'd be hard-pressed to find anywhere else. Most importantly, Evander has a clean romantic history. He's been single his entire life. I couldn't help but feel suspicious. If he's such a rare gem, why would he agree to an arranged marriage with me? Uncle, you didn't trick him into thinking I've been single my whole life, did you? I'm not exactly unmarriageable, but we don't do fraud here. I'd be too embarrassed. Or does he have some hidden issue? My uncle and I shared equally poor judgment, but my mother chimed in. Madeline, you'll understand once you meet him. I couldn't trust my uncle, but my mom was reliable. After a long journey, I took a bath and fell asleep quickly. I slept so soundly that I didn't notice the missed calls on my phone. It wasn't until my phone died and automatically shut off. The next morning, as soon as I charged it and turned it on, the flood of missed calls and messages nearly crashed my phone. All from Conrad. Thinking about the handover at work, I answered his call. Mr. Boyd, all the handover documents are on my computer. Just copy them from there. Conrad interrupted me harshly. Madeline, are you done playing games? You just moved out without a word. Didn't even mention resigning. Is scaring me fun? If you hadn't answered, I was about to call the police. His accusations left me baffled. Mr. Boyd, you already approved my resignation. The finance department only processed my salary after your approval. Everything was done by the book. My straightforward response made Conrad seethe on the other end of the line. You deliberately bullied Olive, and I scolded you a couple of times, so you pull this stunt? Get back here now. Go to work. Go home. Then he hung up. This was the third time he'd lashed out at me since Olive returned. It was clear he was still as confident as ever. I thought I was still the obedient Madeline Marshall who always followed the rules, whether in public or private. After some hesitation, I clicked the red exclamation mark on WhatsApp again. This time, the breakup message finally went through. Conrad Boyd, we're done. In Conrad's mind, this relationship probably didn't even deserve the word breakup. Once the message showed as sent, I blocked him on all platforms. After breakfast, Uncle Ambrose Smith looked at me with a mysterious expression and said he wanted to take me somewhere. Remembering how he used to play pranks on me during my childhood birthdays, I was immediately on guard. Uncle, aren't you a bit old for these childish games now? But he didn't let me argue and pushed me into the car. You'll see when we get there. I promise it'll be a surprise. To maintain the mystery, he even blindfolded me when we arrived at the destination. When I stepped out of the car, I was surrounded by the sound of birds and the scent of flowers. Removing the blindfold, I found myself in a beautiful estate, standing in the middle of a romantic lavender field. In the middle of the field was a carefully decorated swing. Well, do you like it? Uncle Ambrose winked at me. His playful demeanor immediately confirmed that this wasn't his surprise. The next second, a deep, magnetic voice came from behind me. Madeline, from now on, this will be your home. Happy birthday. As someone who's always been drawn to voices, hearing one I liked instantly lifted my mood. Turning around, I was momentarily stunned when I saw the person. If I wasn't mistaken, this was my future husband, Evander Harper. He stood in the middle of the lavender field, tall and well-built, with broad shoulders and a narrow waist. The smile on his face was warm and gentle. He looked like the male lead straight out of a romantic drama. For a moment, my heart seemed to skip a beat. I smiled and greeted him, thanking him, but instead of just words, he handed me a property deed and a set of keys. What shocked me was that the deed had been issued 3 years ago, with my name on it. I looked at him in confusion. What is this? Uncle Ambrose couldn't wait to explain. He designed this place himself, oversaw the construction, and spent a year building it. The inspiration? You? Me? But I didn't even know Evander Harper 3 years ago, as if he knew my doubts. But this time, Uncle Ambrose didn't say anything more. He pushed me toward Evander and quickly made his escape. "Madeline, you two take your time. I've got some work to take care of, so I'll head out now." The sound of birds chirping and the scent of flowers filled the air. Evander pointed to the swing, inviting me to try it. He stood behind me, gently pushing the swing. The wind blew through my hair, carrying his crisp, refreshing scent into my senses. He began to tell me a story, and slowly, my memories started to resurface. 10 years ago, we had been trapped in a fire together. He had just lost his parents and, faced with the raging flames, had given up on the will to survive. It was me who pulled him away from the collapsing door, babbling incoherently to keep his spirits up. I couldn't remember exactly what I had said, but I did recall that before we both passed out, he had told me that if he survived, he would repay me somehow. When I woke up in the hospital, I tried to find him, but he was nowhere to be found. For a long time, I thought he hadn't made it and grieved over it. Madeline, if it weren't for you back then, I might have been crushed under that door. Our shared ordeal instantly brought us closer. I teased him. "So, agreeing to marry me, is this your way of repaying me by offering yourself?" I couldn't reconcile the tall, handsome Evander in front of me with the broken, defeated boy I had met all those years ago. The contrast was just too stark. Before he could answer, I laughed and said, "Just kidding." Before I came back to the city, I had a boyfriend. Evander pushed the swing higher. "I know, by agreeing to marry me, he's in the past. From now on, it's just you and me." His words drifted in the wind, and I didn't catch them fully. But the intensity of his gaze on me made me certain I hadn't misheard. My face flushed involuntarily. After touring the entire estate, my impression of Evander Harper had improved significantly. The moment he opened the art studio, I was left speechless by the countless sketches hanging on the walls. He told me that after he was discharged from the hospital, he had searched for me for a long time. Back then, we had both been so disoriented by the thick smoke that we couldn't clearly see each other's faces, so he drew me from memory. It wasn't until he attended my alma mater's anniversary celebration that he unexpectedly spotted a photo in the outstanding graduate section that bore a striking resemblance to me. When he tracked me down to the South to express his gratitude, he found me all grown up. That one glance felt like an eternity, but he also noticed I already had a boyfriend, so he buried his overwhelming feelings and returned to New York. He was afraid that if he spoke to me, or even got a little too close, he wouldn't be able to control his heart. That's why he designed this estate for me, and filled this studio with sketches of me. After seeing the countless photos in Evander's safe, even a blind person could tell that these paintings were filled with love and longing. It turned out that, in a place I couldn't see, there was someone who had quietly loved me all this time. If it weren't for my uncle and mother wanting to arrange a marriage for me, he wouldn't have even appeared in front of me. Evander, noticing my stunned silence, nervously rubbed his fingers together. "Madeline, did I scare you?" His flustered expression, paired with the cautious look in his eyes, made my heart skip a beat. "No, the paintings are beautiful. I love them." After agreeing to the arranged marriage, I hadn't held any illusions about this union, but since my uncle and mother had handpicked him, I figured it couldn't be too bad. Gaining a husband whose eyes were only on me was an unexpected surprise. When I said I loved the paintings, Evander's deep eyes instantly lit up. In his gaze, I saw my own reflection. His eyes were filled with nothing but me. They say a person's eyes never lie, and under his direct gaze, my heart began to race. Then, like a magician, Evander pulled out one gift box after another from behind him. "These are all birthday presents." He had made up for all the birthdays he had missed, giving me the gifts all at once. There was a high-end keychain he had designed himself and commissioned a master craftsman to create. Accompanying it was a car key. There was a set of gemstone jewelry he thought I'd like. Every single item was meticulously prepared. And finally, a diamond ring. Without any warning, he suddenly dropped to one knee. "Madeline, will you marry me?" Every fiber of my being screamed to say yes, to accept him, but I hesitated. Even though I no longer loved Conrad, my heart had been his for 5 years. It felt unfair to Evander, who was pouring out his genuine feelings. He seemed to immediately sense my hesitation. Who hasn't loved a few wrong people in their youth? I believe that by deciding to return to New York, you've already left the past behind. I only regret that I found you too late, and you deserve the very best. Madeline, will you give me the chance to spend the rest of my life with you? His eyes were filled with hope. His words about me deserving the best completely broke down my defenses. I owed it to myself and to Evander to give this a chance. The ring fit perfectly. Evander's smile made my heart race even more. Ambrose, who had disappeared earlier, suddenly reappeared, clapping and grinning from ear to ear. "Madeline, are you happy? Isn't this romantic? It makes me want to get married too." I purposely rolled my eyes at Ambrose, and he took the hint, urging us to go back for dinner. My mother had been busy all morning, preparing a full table of dishes, waiting for Evander and me to return. At the table, Evander's manners were impeccable. Even the way he ate was a delight to watch. He could effortlessly keep up with the conversation between my mother and Ambrose. It was as if they had known each other for years. This was a scene I had fantasized about countless times, one that Conrad had never once fulfilled. I wanted to bring the person I loved most home, to have dinner with my family, laughing and talking together. Now, Evander sat there, as if it was exactly where he belonged. After dinner, Ambrose insisted on cutting the cake. I was puzzled he never had a sweet tooth, yet today he seemed more eager than I was. My mother whispered in my ear, "Evander made it himself. He knows you love sweets, so he went out of his way to learn how to bake." Today had already been full of surprises, but that didn't stop my heart from racing again. I quickly glanced at Evander, then closed my eyes to make a wish. For the past 5 years, I had always celebrated my birthday with Conrad. He didn't like cake, so he would just take me out for a meal and buy a small, palm-sized cake. I would stubbornly light a single candle and wish for Conrad and me to grow old together. He would laugh and say that making a wish on a cake was less effective than making a wish on him. He knew exactly what my wish was, but he never once told me that he didn't love me, that my wish would always remain just that, a wish. The first birthday after leaving him was grand and unique. After blowing out the candles, Evander gently said to me, "Madeline, all your wishes will come true." I looked up, meeting his gaze, and nodded solemnly. Yes, the wish I made this time would definitely come true. Just as we were cutting the cake, Ambrose's phone rang urgently. After answering, he pulled me aside, looking puzzled. "Madeline's at home. We're celebrating her birthday." There was a moment of silence on the other end. Then Ambrose handed me the phone. "Didn't you finish the handover? Why is Conrad frantically looking for you today?" I glanced at Evander not far away and decided to come clean. "Don't mind him. He probably just can't accept that I broke up with him." Ambrose's grip on the phone tightened, his eyes blazing with anger. Already harboring many grievances against my ex-boyfriend, Ambrose was furious when he found out that the jerk was actually his good friend. He didn't hold back, telling Conrad, "I treated you like a brother, and you treated me like a fool. Get the hell out of my life!" Ambrose hung up the phone, still seething, and promptly blocked Conrad. I tried everything to calm him down, but nothing worked. He was so angry he almost stormed over to beat Conrad up on the spot. I thought someone as proud as Conrad would just walk away after being blocked by us. But when Evander and I returned home after trying on wedding dresses, Conrad was waiting for us, holding a cake. He glanced at Evander indifferently, then grabbed my wrist and pulled me toward him. "Madeline, enough with the games. Don't you know how to keep your distance from other men when you have a boyfriend? Is it really that fun to mess with me? I struggled to free my hand, but he only tightened his grip, making me cry out in pain. Conrad, let go. Have some dignity. Without a word, Evander punched Conrad in the face. She told you to let go, didn't you hear? Conrad took the hit but still refused to release me. This is between us. Mind your own business. Get lost. I endured the pain and coldly reminded Conrad Boyd, you can eat whatever you want, but watch your words. You and I are nothing more than a former boss and a terminated employee. My words left Conrad speechless. Madeline, are you denying our 5-year history for this man? I couldn't help but laugh. He was the one who had never acknowledged our relationship, and now that I've moved on, he's turning the tables and accusing me of denying our past. Mr. Boyd, don't joke around. I'm grateful for your care over the past 5 years. My wedding is in a week, and you're welcome to join us if you're interested. Conrad scoffed. A wedding? Don't tell me you're going through all this just to force me into marrying you. I've told you, the timing isn't right. You've waited 5 years. What's the rush? His arrogance was still intact, even now. I flashed the diamond ring on my finger and the marriage certificate I had just picked up today, coldly stating, Mr. Boyd, you must be forgetting. You and I are just former colleagues. Why would I ever make you marry me? Go back to your girlfriend. I need to go home with my husband. With that, I took Evander Harper's hand, our fingers tightly intertwined. Conrad stared at the stamped marriage certificate, frozen in place. When his gaze shifted to our hands, he suddenly clenched his fists and lunged at Evander. Evander, fearing I might get hurt, quickly let go of my hand and shielded me behind him. My uncle Ambrose, who had come out at the commotion, grabbed Conrad by the collar without hesitation. Conrad Boyd, you have the nerve to show up here? Since you've come to us, don't blame me for being impolite. Conrad looked momentarily guilty but quickly turned furious. If I hadn't come, you would have married my wife off to someone else. If it weren't for your meddling, Madeline would never have left me. She loved me so much. His words were cut off by 2 sharp slaps across his face. Conrad Boyd, remember this. You were once just my boss. Those were your exact words. At that moment, Conrad finally realized that his careless words had pushed me straight into another man's arms. Madeline, I thought you had amnesia and didn't know how to explain it to you. I just said it offhandedly. How could you take it seriously? Didn't you say you'd never marry anyone but me? I don't care that you've married this man. Go get a divorce tomorrow, come back with me, and I'll marry you right away. Just minutes ago, he had said the timing wasn't right to marry me. Now that he knew I was never coming back, he suddenly claimed he could marry me immediately. Conrad Boyd, Olive Nichols is your official girlfriend. I have no interest in being someone's mistress. I saw you passionately kissing her at the concert, and I saw the keepsakes you've hidden in your safe. Stop trying to have it both ways. It's disgusting. For the past 5 years, you've let her go. Now that she's back in your life, cherish her. I hope you two stay together forever. Just don't go around ruining other people's lives anymore. Uncle Ambrose was livid when he heard the news. He motioned for Evander to take me inside. Before I could even shut the door, I heard the sound of fists connecting with flesh. You scoundrel! You played with her heart for 5 years. You deserve this. I was worried Uncle Ambrose might lose control in his rage, so I asked Evander to keep an eye on the situation outside. He held me gently in his arms, soothing me. Madeline, your uncle knows when to stop. If I step in, things might escalate. His trembling body betrayed his desire to confront Conrad himself. Evander, I'm sorry. I didn't handle my past feelings well. If it bothers you, he pressed his forehead against mine. Madeline, you're my wife now. No one can take you away from me. Tears welled up in my eyes as I kissed his cheek. Conrad, who was being pummeled by Uncle Ambrose, caught sight of us through the window, and felt a sharp pang in his heart. He couldn't comprehend how I had fallen for someone else so quickly. But he knew that once I made a decision, there was no turning back. Unless Evander hurt me as deeply as he had, he would never win me back. At that moment, he felt as though he had lost everything. Fulfilling the promises he had made to Olive was merely an attempt to ease his own guilt. Once those promises were fulfilled, he had planned to marry me. But how could I marry someone else over such trivial matters? He had his assistant review the office surveillance footage and finally realized how wrong he had been. But it was too late. I was already in my wedding gown, celebrating a grand ceremony with Evander. An anonymous text message wished me a happy wedding. Later, I heard from Uncle Ambrose that Conrad and Olive had a bitter falling out after he returned. Their breakup was messy, and the entire company knew Olive was the one who had driven me, the rightful girlfriend, away. Conrad even retaliated against her for the way she had treated me. But what did it matter? I had already begun a new life with Evander. The end.